All right, Dr. Daryl Wilson, thanks for joining the podcast, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on, man.
It's so formal calling you doctor, so that's okay.
It's all good, man. I appreciate it, Mike.
So, you're a doctor, but what kind of doctor?
Emergency medicine, so I work in the ER. So it's I'm there at your worst day. I'm there to take care of you in the worst time of your life.
Right. And you, I met you years ago. We were it was in Chicago at a 350 Brewery Fest or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, it was great to get to chat and have some beers. One thing I noticed, you're as positive, if not more positive, than I am. So I gotta say, I would want you to be my doctor if I was going to the emergency room.
I appreciate. I mean, I try to be as positive as possible. I mean, it's not always easy. I mean, I'm no sage where I can really say that I appreciate that compliment. But I mean, everybody has a day that's horrible, or they have to figure out how to really chill and make their mind work right. But I mean, I guess it's no real reason to choose to have a bad day, right? I mean, that's a choice most of the time. I mean, we all choose it. We all do it. We all get involved in something that might emotionally charge us. But I try to have a positive outlook on stuff as much as I can, or at least a realistic output. And most of that is positive, I guess. So I appreciate that, Mike. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just sitting here thinking about what it must have been like to go through the pandemic the last few years as an ER doctor. And I'm sure you get these questions like that all the time, but so take it wherever you want to, but like, how wild is your job? And I mean, you probably have to cut people open or, do trachs on people's throats and
yeah, I was just talking about doing cricothyroidotomies. The last one I did was probably, 11 years ago, last time I did a cric on someone. But I mean, it's in my training. I know how to do it. But I mean, going to the pandemic, I mean, it was definitely a time and a time of reflection on things. It was busy, of course. Mm-hmm. A lot of things initially with information that we knew in the beginning was limited. So of course it was, people had fear about a whole bunch of things. But as we gather more information, which is what happens with life, you're always going to gather new information on things. You modify, what you do. And we were very cautious and safe in the way that we approach things. We had our PPE, we had, protocols in place to keep ourselves protected. And the biggest thing I think that came out of it was, my wife also was a healthcare provider. So us having to go into the environment every day, was kind of trying to our children. Our children were a little fearful of what's going to happen to mom and dad when they go to work. But we could allay some of their fears by letting them know, we follow our protocols and what we need to do to keep ourselves protected and safe and protect the people that we're caring for. So they could kind of take their fears and kind of put them away. But for everybody, I think it was a time that you really analyzed and looked at what was kind of important in life. I think it did make people reevaluate things that they were doing to really focus on, priorities that they might have not seen as priorities before. It was a big pause for a lot of people to be at home and then suddenly not have to, have all the baseball games take your kids to, the swimming lessons, the dance, all those things. And in some ways, it was a time for people to rediscover who they are, who they wanted to be. So, I mean, that's kind of a little esoteric way of looking at it from the perspective of the pandemic. But from the healthcare perspective, I mean, it's a matter of what we're called to do. I mean, as emergency physicians and all first responders, that's our calling. That's what we're signed up to do. So it's everybody's worst day. We're there to take care of you. And we have, the means to protect ourselves so that we can actually still care for you during your time. So, It was nice that we had the opportunity to go out of our homes, I guess, in some sense. But I mean, we were going into this environment that was, caused us to have some, trepidation at times. But I think we've come out of it. We've learned. I mean, we've gone through, the world has gone through pandemics and things in the past. This is nothing new for humanity. Yeah. And we've all come through it. So I think that's one positive spin to take on it.
Absolutely.
Silver lining to any cloud. But I mean, yeah, it was busy. And then the aftermath has been kind of the crazy thing, and looking at, the change in the recruitment and retention of individuals in healthcare and in all aspects of life. So it showed us a lot of things that healthcare had always been kind of limping along in some senses, and it was a big hit at one time. It's kind of a fuel that sparked a lot of things. But as far as my profession and going in every day and the fear, the fatigue, the work with it, during the time we were being supported by the general populace so much, it was great. But with everything, there's always that backlash, and things turn around, and suddenly, you become the greatest villains on the planet for some odd reason that everybody wants to tear their heroes down. And it was nice to have hero worship, I guess, for some sense, but in all honesty, it's just the job that we do. So, thank you for the people that were supporting us, and thank you for the people that still do. But it's something that we do. It's something I was trained to do since, I went through medical school and my residency. And, I'm just happy that I'm able to still do it and care for people.
Absolutely. I was really surprised how political everything became, during the pandemic. And of course I shouldn't be, because everything was so divided, through the last 4 or 5 years. But but really, if you think about it, it's been divided for a lot longer than that. But but yeah.
And it's sad to take things that don't have a political affiliation and make them political. I mean, illness does not discriminate. It doesn't pick and choose. This is something that we as a species have to work together to overcome. And that's that's all we've done throughout all of our survival as a species. We've worked together. And I think that's our general inclination, is to work together as, a collective of human beings to continue to move in a forward direction. It's the only way we can. If we didn't do that in the beginnings, when we were, in tribes running around together to hunt and take down mastodon, you can't do it individually. You can't separate out and say smaller factions are going to do this. You have to work together to survive. The elements and the universe don't really care about us. And so for us to survive, we have to work together to kind of find solutions and find strategies to the dilemmas that are given to us every day. So I do think our general inclination is to work as a unit. Right now, we're just going through kind of all the transitions that happen. Transitions are hard, but I think we'll get it together at some point. We will get it together. We always have.
Absolutely. I mean, did you ever, aside from being scared of the unknown, but do you ever feel, because being a doctor, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to have a job, right? Ish. But during the pandemic, for the first time, there was all this other stuff. Like, no, you don't just have to care for people. You have to also adhere to this line or whatever it was going on, So I was just like, man, it must be so hard to be inside those lines. So that, to me, drawing, your medical field and your medical career and then going into punk rock, I wonder if that's a little bit of sanity for you. It's like a piece of like, I have this to hold on to no matter what's going on in my professional life. Not to say that the Bollweevils aren't your professional life as well, but I also have this thing, like my I don't know, albatross or something. I don't know. Can you talk to that
I mean, as Milo would say, punk rock doesn't pay the bills, right? I mean, for me, it doesn't. I mean, but so it's that thing that it does pay dividends when it comes to my psyche, as you were kind of putting, Mike. And it is something that I've always done, before I was a physician. It's one of those things that all of us in punk rock have had this feeling sometimes of being the outsider, not feeling like you belong to something. Then you find this place that you can be yourself and express who you are and feel free to do that. And it gives you some solace away from the stressors of day to day that are around you, that place to release that stress in the pit, or screaming the lyrics to the song, with your favorite artist, or being up on stage doing that. And it is a place that I can go to that helps me to kind of become a full human being, right? I can take care of people with the scientific part of my brain and do all those things that have to be done to care for the sick and dying. And, to internalize that stuff, it becomes, a heavy weight. And so the ability to go to a show and see, circle jerks, or to, play a show with my band and express my feelings and to get that stuff out to jump around on stage, to share with people in a different way, it's replenishing to my soul. That's where I get those dividends paid back. And it is something that I will always do, something creative, something, to have that outlet for my expressions or my frustrations or whatever it might be, going on around me that feels like it's not in control. So yeah, it's always been that catharsis for me to be able to perform and play. And I'll keep doing it for as long as my body allows me to do it. It's a good thing. It's a really good thing to have outlets like that. And I think a lot of people don't have that, which leads to a lot of, sadness and anger and anxiety and depression. And I think finding a niche, finding something that is outside of your norm, something that you really want to express or do is something we should all be striving for as humanity.
Absolutely. How did you get in? Like, was it the medical field first? Were you interested in that, or was it punk rock? Like, how did that all intersect, and what came first?
So as a kid, when I was 7, I wanted to be a doctor since I was like 7 years old. And that was out of watching, my grandfather got sick and got cancer, was in a hospital in Michigan, and, watched the physicians there treat him really poorly as, a blue collar African-American guy, just treated him poorly. And all my experiences with physicians, my pediatrician when I was a kid was great. He was educating us on things and was always, nice and just felt comfortable. And that's what I always thought physicians were supposed to be. And, I pledged at that point, watching my dad break down when his dad, was dying. I'd never seen that happen. That caused me to become really, really anxious and fearful that something was drastically wrong, that the guy who I saw who was supposed to be so strong and unbreakable was falling apart. And then seeing the way that these other human beings treated my grandfather, I was like, I'm not going to let that happen. That's impossible. I'm going to be a doctor one day and make sure people didn't get treated that way. And so that was my kind of fuel that started that since I was 7 years old. But, as I started growing, I still wanted medicine to be my profession. But then, as a kid, you all become angsty in some way. We all get angsty. We all find, things that, trouble us. And I started listening to metal. I AC/DC and Iron Maiden were things that kind of were like, oh, this is awesome. I remember, listening, when I hear For Those About to Rock, that something like the cannons are going off. I'm like, this is something that draws me to it. And then listening to Iron Maiden, it was like, oh, this is so good. And I remember a kid telling me once, you can't listen to that music. It's white people music. I'm like, I was like, music is it's black and white on the page. It's not color. It doesn't have a color to it. It's just something that made me feel emotionally charged and made me feel like this is what I wanted to have, because you start getting angsty as my parents were getting divorced and things like that. And so we moved, and, of course I started skateboarding because that was my outlet for, instead of self-harming myself, I was self-harm myself by trying to learn tricks on a skateboard.
Yeah.
And, never became that good. So the flagellation of being on a skateboard and harming myself was my way of releasing that anger and pain.
Wow.
And so
never thought of it that way, by the way.
Yeah. So, so that's the only reason I can say it wasn't that good, but the pain made me go, okay, this is it. But I got handed a tape, and I was probably 12 at the time, 12, 13, maybe 12. Yeah. And I handed a tape, and on the tape were the Germs, the Adolescents, and the Angry Samoans. And, I was listening to this tape, and that suddenly my eyes opened up, and I was like, this is what I feel. This is what I feel like. Darby Crash just kind of gutturally growling lyrics and just thrashing around, and, the Angry Samoans with, my old man's an asshole. It's like that kind of stuff made me go, yeah, this is what I feel right now. This is speaking to me. And so that I fell in love with punk rock, and just started just gobbling up anything that was punk rock. And so,
did you
at that point, go ahead, Mike.
Quick punk rock question. Did you ever see the movie Suburbia?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That was like, it was like I was like note taking. I was like, okay, this is how to be a punker. Okay. Like, cause I was a kid watching that movie, and it was like the best thing ever. And DI is in it. And I think Angry Samoans might be in it. I'm not sure, but Yeah, it's got a great soundtrack.
Yeah, and the thing about listening to punk and skating and all those things, you just continue to delve deeper and deeper into the culture, right?
Yeah.
And so it was ingrained in me. That's what my persona was. As a teen, you kind of become who you're going to be. You mature in some senses, and we never fully mature, but we mature in some sense, and if our DNA is infused with what you're going to take on. And so I took on that, and that's what made me feel good, made me feel, accepted, made me feel like I was a part of something. And as we moved to Chicago, Chicagoland area, I fell in love with Naked Raygun. And then I realized this is my community here, Chicago punk rock. And I always knew I wanted to play or at least meet the people in the band, right? I wanted to meet Naked Raygun. That was my goal at some point, to have dinner with them, and going to see Raygun, I met all the guys in the Bollweevils. They started the band. They saw me. We'd always be surviving in the front against the skinhead wall of death and everything else that would go on at shows. And they thought I looked cool. They could see me singing along to every lyric that, Pouzza was singing, but they didn't know if I could sing or not, because we're singing in the din of everybody else singing. And they asked me to be in this band and say, hey, do you want to sing for this band? So they gave me a tape, and the rest is history. Did I start off saying I wanted to play in a punk rock band? No. Did I have am I glad that the circumstances that brought me to live in Chicago and meet these guys have me now talking to Mike Herrera? Yeah, this is cool stuff. This is what this is about. It'd be great, if I had made some decisions at other times and like, okay, I'm just going to play music for a living. But, I chose medicine. That was my first thing. My first thing was, I want to be a doctor. I want to make sure that I treat people, in a way that's fair and that is equitable and is the way that I believed the ideal of what we're supposed to do in caring for people. But I also have the opportunity to be a whole person and express art and help people in a way outside of medicine by playing music and having them come to shows. And as people have probably said to you, like, hey, your songs have made me get through some hard times and you've helped me out tremendously. And it's another way of interacting with human beings in a way that's really, really intimate and close. So It was medicine first, punk rock second, but they all intertwine together because it makes me who I am.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And I love that, one, I'm proud of when I meet other punk rockers that are doing so well in a professional career, because for me, like, I never had a professional career because I was just always doing this, and I kind of got in lucky or whatever it was. But seeing like, you, Milo from the Descendants, Greg Graffin, like, that's inspiring to me that no matter what, I meet tons of people that are like way more professional, know way more about life than I do. And I'm sitting here singing about life and they're listening to me, so it's like, it's funny and ironic when I really think about, okay, they're taking their life advice from some guy that's never had a real job. Sure, I've worked a lot of service jobs, but
that's the thing about this, right? Isn't it the personal connection? Music connects us all. And that personal connection that we all have with moments in time that can be, stamped with a song that you hear or a lyric that gets you. And it does kind of help you get over certain things. We all have that, built into us. The first things you hear when you're, developing is a rhythm. It's a heartbeat, it's your mom's heartbeat, right? And so that is something that we're all ingrained with, is that brings us some semblance of comfort to have some music, something that drives us, something that goes, what amps up people to do, heroic things. You look at, the drummer who drums and people go off to battle, or, music that drives you to get that extra umph in when you're running that marathon or whatever you're doing. It's like music is the soundtrack to life, really. It is. Yeah. And what you do is important, Mike. It is. It helps people get through their day. It helps people get through a moment. And that's a really awesome thing to have the ability to do. Even for a little band like mine, to have opportunities to have people listen to us and, hear us all over the world, and people to recognize and go, hey, you're Daryl from the Bollweevils, and the song helped me get through this. That's awesome. And by the way, my ankle hurts. Can you look at my ankle right now? I mean, that kind of stuff, happens. But I mean, that's such a cool, unique thing. And in life, in the end, when you're on your deathbed and you're looking back, it's not going to be like all the material things you got. It's going to be the experiences you had and the impact you had with other people that's going to really, really resonate with you in those last moments. So that's an important aspect of things. So never discount yourself, Mike. You're doing a great job. And I appreciate it.
Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate that. So do fans come up and like ask you to sign something and then try to like put that signature onto a prescription?
Most things are electronic now, so we got to do electronic prescriptions. I mean, you can still write one, but I mean, it'd be hard to like transpose the thing. My signature's so crappy anyway, a squiggly ass line that people could probably forge it if they tried.
I probably shouldn't say this, but my dentist buddy is like, hey, if you ever need a prescription, you let me know. I have not taken him up on that, but no.
I didn't hear that. I heard everything, but I didn't hear it.
Of course not. No. I mean, he's long gone. I think he went to Mars.
There you go. Exactly. He's running from the Drug Enforcement Agency. They can't find you, and you're extradited from Mars. They can't get you.
So Bollweevils, I remember hearing about you guys before MXPX was anything. We were just starting out, and I think you guys were on a compilation or something like that. But you guys have always been so hard hitting. So hearing this new record, Essential, and it's out everywhere right now. You can order it. And is it on vinyl right now too, or is it?
It is on vinyl, CD. You can get it, digitally download. You got it all over. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
That's so great. Yeah, I just. It sounds really good. It sounds really in your face, and let's talk about it. So it's all about the general vibe I get is all about Bollweevils, punk rock, community. It's called Essential, which is a lot talking about like essential workers. What does that mean? So I don't know where you want to begin with that, but I'd love to hear your insights on it. And what's your favorite song?
That's the hard one. So to start off with the whole idea of the title of Essential, it did kind of come out of a lot of bantering around what we were going to call this record. And, initially we had all kinds of things. We're like, oh, it's going to be old dudes still doing it or whatever, because, come back and you're playing after all this time. But, Essential kept coming in because we were really getting this put together like during the height of the pandemic. And, we all kind of went through some stuff during the pandemic, whether it was me dealing with the day-to-day of going into the hospital and dealing with, people that were really ill and the concerns about exposures and things like that. Whether it was, dealing with family issues that people might have, or dealing with, their people's own depression, or, dealing with schools and how those are functioning with, Ken and his work as a, principal at the time. And, it all of us had things we were dealing with. And I think that, I kind of just popped in and said, hey, maybe we should call this Essential, in dealing with all the people that are doing all the work. And it kind of grew into this whole meta thing as well, because the album cover, was done by Benoit, the tattoo artist here in Chicago. And Ben had heard what we were calling the record, and he then put together this wheel that had the spokes of the wheel are these the arms of just these arms. It's just like you're trying to get it on your mic. It's
I'll put it
up. And so the spikes, the spokes of the wheel are just all these different arms of people coming out of the Chicago Star, and it's holding the city and the wheel going. And it really does reflect upon not only just the people that are essential to keep the world going, the essential people that are out there, but we're all kind of essential in our own way to keep everything going. And that's kind of what it comes from. It's that whole thing. Punk rock's essential to us in the sense of keeping us all going. Mm-hmm. And so we put all of our, love, our heart, our sweat, our tears into this record. It's something that took a long time to make. We always had the stutter steps of like, hey, we're going to get our stuff recorded and we're going to put some things out. And it just never got together to do it. But we finally got the right lineup. We finally put all our pieces together and became the band we were supposed to be all along. We evolved into who we are. And, the addition of Pete Mittler, our bass player, he's been our buddy since our first tour. Actually, he was our roadie and our driver. But didn't do any really work. He just drove. He didn't really do any roadieing at all. But I mean, he's been our buddy forever. And he, came in, he's played in the Methadones, played, the Bomb and Raygun. And so he basically made us and completed us. And we finally had the energy, the fuel, the spark to really get this work done. And we were working cohesively as such a great unit that I think that it shows in the record. So it all comes out as one powerful expression. And so you asked me, what's my favorite song on the record? And, I think the whole record has to be taken as a unit, as one whole. It starts and it kind of just pulls you into it, and it makes you go along for the ride. Predisposition, the first song, the initial track on it, hits like punch. The video's out there and people hit it. It just hits you. And is that
why you chose that for the first song? Like, how do you choose your first song on a record?
Yeah, kind of it's got to hit you. You have only a couple of seconds to get somebody attracted to what you have. So, you have to really draw people in. If you have something that's a drawn out, thing that wait for it to come, people don't have patience anymore to wait for things to come. You might have the greatest opus ever created, and somebody's like, just get to the point, man. Just hit it. I mean, it's punk rock.
Unless you're Tool or something.
Right. It's like, you're a punk rock man. Get to the point. And that's what we do. It's like, it's like, if you can't really express what you want to say in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I have to say that because some of our songs are like 2:35 or something like that, which typically, but you hit it and you bring people in. They're like, and they want more. And so you have to draw them in to get more.
I would love to play everybody like a snippet of like the very beginning, because like when I heard that, it did exactly what it needed to do, by the way. So you guys succeeded, because when I heard that record, I mean, I hear a lot of new songs, on comps or whatever, or playlists, I guess you call them now, but comps. But yeah, it is hard to get into new stuff, so if it catches you right away, you kind of like, you notice that. So I'd love for people to, let's just do, you can't do more than 25 seconds, but here we go.
You see the best of everything, at least you tell yourself. You turn a blind eye to suffering, you'll never get my help. I highly doubt that we could choose.
Yes. Dude, that's so rad. I mean, it does exactly what you want it to do. I love that. And it doesn't mean it's even the best song on the record, because it develops, right?
Right. Though I think all the songs are like great. It's hard.
Of course you do.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm going to stand right behind it, and I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to stand behind it. I mean, it's like, so far, it's the best thing we put out so far. I mean, everything had its point. I mean, like going back to our initial LP on Dr. Strange, Stick Your Neck Out, that had Bottomless Pit, which we recorded for this record. That was the start track, and that has its own driving hit, and it brings you into the record for Stick Your Neck Out. And so I think that's an important aspect of anything, is you want to make sure you hit them and you say, come with me. This is what you're doing. This is us. And, Predisposition hits you, and then it takes you into the next song, which is Gulch Gulch, which has another.
That's catchy. It's catchy. It's hardcore, but it's got like a hook,
Yeah. And so the thing that you get hit with is this whole thing of, there's this acoustic intro, and then it brings you into the rest of the song. And
well done. I like that. That's cool.
And that's what we were able to mature our sound. It's something that we're all proud of, that we can play hard, play fast like we always do, because I think that's the only way we know how to play.
Yeah.
But it also, we can mature with that sound. It doesn't have to be sloppy. It doesn't have to be just almost like ramshackle together, and it can be short and concise, but also be really deep and nuanced at the same time. And I think that's what we kind of accomplished with the record. The vocals and the lyrics, and then the way the bass drives, the way that the drums are just just hitting you rat-a-tat-tat, and Ken's writing of the songs and his guitar. It's all those things together make it one cohesive unit. So it's hard for me to pick like a favorite. It's one of those records that I believe that you put on, and it's so short. I mean, it's a short record, but you put it on and it's like, you don't want to, there's not a song you skip. It's like each song goes into the next one. You're like, wow, this goes. And so it's sequenced well. It's the songs are mixed well. Chris Beeble did all the mixing at the blasting room. He's amazing. And it is a one solid piece of work, I think. And that's what I stand behind that 1,000%.
Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, your best overall record for sure.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Feels
for now until
great, right?
Until the next one that we put out. I mean, that's the thing. You can't sit on your laurels and just be like, that's the best thing, I'm all done. It's like, it is, we are satisfied with it. It is something we can sit back and say, I know it's good.
Yeah.
And if somebody says they don't like it, that's their personal choice. I understand that. But I can say for certain, I know that it's good. I'm not going to doubt and say, ooh, we put something out. I'm a little sketchy about some of the things we put out. Every part of it, I'm like, everything on there, I will stand behind 1,000%.
There's people out there that like to suck on stinky feet. Like they prefer stinky. Like don't clean your feet. Leave them stink. I'm sure there is. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, somebody likes your band. Somebody likes my. I mean, it's amazing. But you're right. Like you have to go with what you do best because there are people that want that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. You got to be true to yourself. You got to be true to what you do. You can't start doing things that are not true to who you are, because then you're going to get called out on that. Right. And everything that we did on that record is true to us and true to who we are as a band. And so I can't have any regrets having it out there. Whatever's out there's out there. It's just us. And I think I think people like genuine. People want to see real. And that's what we have with this record. It's fully genuine and fully real.
That's probably why I like it. I mean, it's got the energy, but it's not fake sounding. It feels like you're in the room just jamming, but it's not sloppy, like you said. Like bass tones on point. I want to play a little bit of Galt's Gulch, because that's the second song. Here we go.
Yep.
That acoustic intro is cool. Lilith Fair material here. You're like, what? What's going on? And then it gets crazy. Drums sound great. So now you're building that tension.
Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's a catchy chorus right there. Who's John Galt?
Right. So I mean, it's the song is a take on the idea of individuals being subscribing to the objectivist philosophy, like touted in the Fountainhead and Ayn Rand's books, like Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged.
And the thing is, it's actually tongue in cheek and taken as a poke at it, because the idea of individuals using Who's John Galt as the ultimate cop out to not be a part of a society, to not be a part of a community, to not contribute, to say, not my fault, it's Who's John Galt. That's like, it's bullshit. That doesn't work. We as once again, as human beings are ingrained to work together in communities. And, yes, individuals are important, and because individual skills are super important things, but to, sit back and say, okay, as individually, my skills as a physician are my skills, and I'm going to do what I want to do as a physician, but not follow other physicians and what they're doing and you just do crazy stuff. It's like, I can't be so independent minded that I'm like, well, you know what? I don't really believe in, using scalpels for this. I usually use my hands and tear open the tissue because it leaves a different type of, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. Well, this is what I'm doing. This is my independent thought. I mean, this is what works well for me. It's like, well, what works well for the community? You have to look at that. If somebody tells you to, not produce something because they can't produce it. Well, one, you might want to say, well, what's the issue? Let me help you. How do I help you along? How do I show you best practice? If somebody just doesn't want to do best practice, well, that's their problem. But to say that everybody's trying to take from you, that you as a contributor to community you're being taken advantage of by people. And then when people ask you for something, you're like, it's not my problem. Who's John Galt? You walk away. It's like, you're just contributing to the downfall of shit.
Can I ask you some clarification kind of questions? Because I don't know a lot about John Galt or Ayn Rand or whatever. I know it's like a libertarian thing, but I feel like a lot of people don't know that phrase or what it means. So when you're saying who's John Galt, you're saying not my fault? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
yeah,
I don't take responsibility.
Yeah, that's what it kind of comes off as in some sense. I'm not taking responsibility for the community around me, and blaming that the community is somewhat stealing from you, that it's taking, that it's something like the word collective is tossed around to say that the collective is taken from us, collective thinking. It's like, okay, hold on a second. A collection of people together is a collective. A community is a collective. To disregard communities, to disregard your role in the community, to say it's not my fault, you figure it out yourself, is really a cop out, and it's horseshit. So that's the thing that is, it's a tongue in cheek kind of thing that the person in the song is like saying, everybody wants everything from me, and you got this is the way, I don't owe you shit, blah blah blah. And when you ask me who's John Galt, I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna contribute. And that's what the thing is. It's actually an anti that.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't think you were probably pro-libertarian, but not that that's the thing is like there's good ideas in a lot of different camps, right? But it doesn't always work totally.
But to take things to an extreme, and
the same works for, I guess collectivism too.
Right. It's like the fantasy of all things. It's like there's the idea that, everything has to be extreme. I think it came out of the 90s and 2000s. Everything's extreme, right? Yeah. And so to take something to its, farthest reaches and to say this is going to work, it's like, hold on. Have you really tested this? Have you really thought this through 1,000%? You're leaping before you actually are walking. You're not measuring before you cut, and you can't pull back from that. And so we've always worked together as human beings, as humanity. This is why we have such great strides in technology, why we've gone to the moon, why we have the ability to, think of new ways to educate, new ways to, inform individuals, new ways to administer health. And so it's because we work together, and being the rogue independent. And it's great to be independent because you have to have independent thinkers that bring things to people and go, here's what this works. Here we're going to use this together. We're going to make this better, versus I got mine, fuck off. It's
right.
Nah, it's like, come on, that doesn't work. It's like neglecting a part of your body. Hey, you know what? My hair's on point. My hair is good. This mole that I have, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to ignore that. My hair's good though. My hair's awesome. I'm going to ignore the mole. The mole continues to grow, and it metastasizes, and it destroys the whole organism because you've ignored this one part of things.
Don't ignore the mole.
You think that it's not a part of it. Exactly.
Yeah. It seems like humans, we all have our own experiences, but we have a general experience of when you're young, you're really, piss and vinegar, and you want to change the world. And then you kind of get bogged down, at least in Western cultures, you bog down by your career and by family, or I don't want to say bogged down by family because that's not a bad thing, but as if it's a bad thing. But what I mean is you get busy and you kind of like maybe lose part of yourself. And if you're lucky, you don't. And then you have to come back to yourself. You have to find yourself again. And maybe that's why they have these things called midlife crises, right?
Right.
So we're always sort of like having these moments of, oh, maybe I'm changing and I'm still changing, so like, yeah, I feel exactly what you're saying. Like I feel like, sure, there's people on extremes that aren't going to ever change, but people that are kind of reasonable and just trying to like help society and help our families and help our friends. And I feel like we do make mistakes a lot. And it's really hard for people to admit that and to like
Right.
change how you live or change your stance on something politically, or to admit that you probably shouldn't have had that opinion in the first place, but you were not thinking, right? You were cutting
Right.
before you measured. So I just
Right.
think it's just so easy to go there.
But it's okay. I think the thing that we have, unfortunately, is that now individuals expect the thing about intelligence. Intelligence is understanding that there can be two diametrically opposed things that are right, and having the ability to understand nuance. You know, when people just go into this binary thoughts of ones and zeros, like it's only this or only this, it's only yes or no. It's like, that's not how things work. It's not that way. There's a lot of gray.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing you have to also, look at is that people want to take things and make them into just 1 + 1 = 2, a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have a lot of times are not problems that are 1 + 1. What we have a lot of times are dilemmas, and dilemmas are not 1 + 1 = 2. Dilemmas are things that require strategies to work. And so you have to then implement strategies to kind of work through a dilemma. You can't just walk in and go, we're doing this and it's going to make it better. It's like, no, we have to realize that we might have to change as things change. A person who's on a medication over time and say they start doing things to improve their health by losing weight and eating better, they may be on insulin. Their insulin needs may change over time. To stay on the same insulin regimen may not be appropriate for them. So if you keep them on that same regimen, they're going to get hypoglycemic and have, untoward effects from the medication, instead of realizing, hey, you know what you did? You've made some changes here. We need to alter some things to make sure that it's changing with you. And the same point, you could also completely dash your health and throw it all away and get worse and worse, and then require increasing doses of medications over time. And then you wonder, why am I not getting better? It's like, well, because we all fall towards entropy. We're all going to break at some point. You're just trying to maintain as best you can. So it is a matter of understanding there's nuance in everything. And we have to be willing to look at things and go, before I leap at this, let me think about it. Sometimes I don't need to open my mouth and say something. Sometimes I just need to sit back and watch before I actually intervene. Sometimes I don't need to intervene at all, but we're so quick to say, you got to do something right now. When in fact, it's like, I'm doing something right now. I'm thinking. And we've lost the ability for people to say, I'm thinking about this.
Right. That's so important, to be able to think about things. And in a world that's constantly putting things in your head, whether it's like, oh, you're about to die because this you didn't drink enough water today, or something, whatever it is, right? Like, I just have to remind myself, all right, chill, and just, you're a person in this world. Just live a life and do things, and not worry so much about all the craziness around you.
It really, Mike, sometimes it's just being still.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to move and do. It's like, how about taking a moment to just be like, boom. Like I said, the pandemic had that opportunity where everybody had this pause. Mm-hmm. And when people became paused for a second, they had to sit back and think about, what are they doing? What are they going to do? What is their real plan? Is what they're doing right now truly that important?
Right.
And I think that's what people forget about. We get caught up, as you said, in this constant stuff that's going on. And then we sometimes lose sight of just take a moment to just stop for a second and then go, take a breath and look around.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. A lot of people, and I do this too in my own ways, but we get really involved with work. Okay, I got to get this done. You might probably have to do something with your kids if you have kids. And you don't do things, say, that medical test that's been sitting there for months, or you don't do things like get your gutters cleaned or something like that. Obviously, it's not a big deal, but then 2 years later, your gutters are broken and you actually have to spend 3 times as much money buying new gutters instead of just paying somebody to clean the gutters. So I think about this kind of stuff all the time, and it kind of drives you crazy if you think about it too much. But
Right.
You can easily kind of just let your house, and by house, our body is a house too, you can let it fall into disrepair by not going on walks, by not clearing your head, by not standing up a few minutes in between, projects that you're working on at work.
Right.
and it's the simple things that I think that break down and cause bigger issues in our lives. And we think, don't worry, I'm just going to finish this. I'm going to keep looking at my phone with my neck like this. I'm almost done. And then like you do that for like a year, and finally you're like, what is wrong with my neck? Why does it hurt so bad? You know, it's like these little things add up to big problems.
Right. It's like people don't maintain their own, persona. I mean, the only thing you can control is you, right? Mm-hmm. You can't control all that outside stuff. You can't control any of those things outside of your own person. And so I think what people worry about too much is trying to control things that are uncontrollable. And it leads to this anxiety. It leads to, breakdown of things. It's like every decision you make has to be your decision that you make for you. And you have to accept it, right?
Yeah.
And the outcomes are just the outcomes. No matter what you do, the outcomes are uncontrollable too. You don't control them. You could do everything that's supposedly right, and your gutters could still fall apart.
Yeah.
It's like, and you have to accept that. So I think that's something that helps to ameliorate people's anxieties if you really, understand that, hey, I can control my response to stuff. Everything else doesn't matter. If something happens, I could yell and scream and do that. Does it change the situation as it does? It probably doesn't. It might make you feel like, okay, you feel good for the 10 seconds because you screamed, but then afterwards you realize it didn't change that your gutters still fell down.
Yeah.
You still got to do something about that. So instead choose maybe to pick your gutters up and get them attached again. The other day, simple thing, I'm pulling on the handle to the microwave, it's been acting up. Mm-hmm. And my wife's watching me, the kids are watching me, and I'm yanking on this handle and I pull the whole door off the microwave. And I'm like, for Christ's sake, man. I'm like, come on. It's like, this is happening right now. And so microwave's done. One of my daughters walks over and goes, how are we going to eat? I'm like, with your mouth and with the food. We can cook on a stove. It's like, this is what but that's not how we grew up. You grew up cooking on stove and stuff, Dad. I'm like, this is how we can still prepare food. So you just got to get a door. Just got to take care of it. I'm not going to sit there and lose my mind. I just looked at my wife and I'm kind of going, really? This is what's happening? I'm pulling a door off of this thing. This is ridiculous. So, and I'm like, okay, just got to get the door repaired. I'm looking at door repair. I'm like, it's so not worthwhile to repair the door. We got to get a new microwave now. I'm like, absolutely, dude. It's like, so you just got to laugh about that stuff and just realize, hey, what are you going to do? There's no microwave. Cool. Kids, you're going to have to cook in the toaster oven or on the stove and cook in the oven like most people do, which is how people can sustain themselves, or just eat a Twinkie, for Christ's sake. They can do that too.
Eat a Twinkie. Yeah. Eat a Twinkie. I mean, there's always, you're right. I mean, I was just talking to my wife. Our AC went down in Texas, and it's just like, I'm glad I'm not there. So
right. You called somebody about that, hon? Did you call someone about that?
But my point is, what I told her was, I was like, we should start. Oh, we kind of do, but we should basically just plan for disasters. Like, we should just plan for 2 disasters a year, and then. Because it's not like it's surprising when something big, like the microwave door, falls off. I mean, it's a little surprising, but you said it's been acting up, right? So if we just planned for like 2 disasters a year, there should be like random life disaster insurance that's just like not connected to like death or anything, just like random things.
I think that's called homeowners insurance, though, Mike. I think they have insurance like that.
Is that what that is?
I mean, they have all those things, but
why don't I ever use it?
Like, but you could plan for 2, and there could be 3. I mean, that's the thing. You do. It's just that life just happens, man. Stuff just goes down. You just got to sit there, and how do you respond to it? You just go, we're gonna do it. We're gonna respond.
Yeah.
It's like the old thing of. You get fired from your job and suddenly you're like, I guess I'm not, having to park here anymore. I got to park someplace else now. I mean, you can think of it that way.
Yeah. Always a better perspective. Like, now I don't have to go over there. That's just
right. That commute kind of sucked. I didn't like that route. Okay, I got a newer commute now. Figure it out.
Dude. Well, the record is great. I'm really happy for you guys. So what are you guys doing besides obviously this podcast, but so do you guys have any shows planned for the summer? What's happening?
Yeah. I mean, in fact, we're flying out tomorrow to go play Pouzza Fest up in Montreal. So we'll be there. We're playing Saturday. And We have a couple other shows planned out. We've got our record release show is on the 27th of May here in Chicago at the Chop Shop with the Dopamines and Reaganomics and Butchered.
Awesome.
It's going to be an awesome show. We got a nice little old school show. We're playing out in California in Rancho Cucamonga. We're playing on August 12th. We're going to be playing out there for Dr. Strange Presents show, which is awesome. So like our old label, Dr. Strange, contact us about getting out there and playing a show, which is going to be great. And we've got Fest at the end of the year. So we're going to be playing 2 sets at Fest in Gainesville. There's some other things that are kind of like in the works. But
Sure.
it's funny because summers are planned already, right? You have to plan your summer last summer. So I guess we have to start planning for what we do in 2024. So you're going to take us out on the road with you guys, Mike. I mean, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm planning on that one. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for MXPX and the Bollweevils to do some stuff
Well,
together.
we should definitely play together.
Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are great. We're working on new stuff, and it's just like it takes forever. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's great, but yeah, it is a lot that we're working on because I'm like redoing my whole studio. So aside from like new music, I'm also like redoing our control room for the live stream stuff. We're redoing our live broadcast room, and it's just like a lot of construction-y stuff that I don't necessarily know how to do. So like, if you, like, you don't want to hear a doctor walk into work and be like, I'm doing something I've never done before today. But that's pretty much my life lately is doing things I don't know how to do.
It's new stuff, man. It's always learning something, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're always gaining a new skill is what you're learning, a new skill. Like that's all it is, new skills.
Right. So if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, anything like that, you've got like a high threshold or a high
Value. I'm a high value target.
High value.
Yes.
I don't know how to say that in
High
video
value
game
target,
terms.
yes.
You have high
Yes.
point score.
Yes. It's like reading Max Brooks, World War Z. It's like, who's important at that point? Essential people were essential. It's like,
Yeah.
that's good. I'm a high value target. So keep me safe.
You know what? If punk rock, was just something that was a thing of the past, and we're living in this new post-apocalyptic world where we're fighting every day for our food and our shelter and our lives, I would step up and just start sweeping the floors or start doing whatever it takes, because I can clean things, I can do things. So take me with you, Daryl. I'll be I'll hold your scalpels. Okay.
I do think though that the punk rock ethos is well suited towards the post-apocalyptic zombie apocalypse because it's a DIY spirit of getting stuff done. So that's, I think, is well suited towards that world. So I think that your skill set does translate into the zombie apocalypse, Mike.
I feel so much better hearing that from you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, everybody check out the new album by the Bollweevils, Essential. It's out everywhere on streaming. You can get it on vinyl and CD and all that. Where should they go to get it?
You can go to redscare.net. You can stream it all over the place, any place you want to go. You can go to Bandcamp and get it as well and support the bands directly. At any show we're at, we're going to have the vinyl there as well, too. We'll have some up at Pouzza and the CD as well. So it's everywhere. So go out, get it, grab it, enjoy it. It's a fantastic record, and I think you're going to love it.
If I knew Toby was involved, though, I wouldn't have spoken so highly about it. I'm kidding. He's a former Washington guy, so we go way back.
It's right. Yumclaw in the mix.
Yeah,
Yumclaw going.
All right, everybody. Daryl Wilson, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. Can't wait to see you guys.
Thanks, Mike. It was awesome, man. I appreciate you, man.
Cheers.
Peace.
All right, that was a lot of fun, everybody. I want to thank my guest, Dr. Daryl Wilson of the Bollweevils. He sings for the Bollweevils, and we talked a lot about their new record, Essentials. We talked about him being a doctor, how he got into medicine. We talked about the punk rock community and society and, modern times a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Again, Daryl, you were awesome. Make sure you guys check out the Bollweevils' new album. It's their best album so far. It's really great. Essentials. It's streaming everywhere. And, of course, you can get it on online, vinyl, CD, all that. All right, you guys. Shout out to Bob McKnight for producing and editing the podcast. If you haven't already, you can call in. And even if you have, call in again. Leave me a voicemail, 360-830-6660. Would love to hear from you. It's going to be a couple weeks till we get to another Music Monday, New Music Monday, but we will be doing one of those in a couple weeks. All right, you guys. MXPX.com. Make sure you check out the merch arsenal. That's our web store. I've been over there helping out a lot lately, and we're working on stuff. So thank you. All right. Cheers.